All right, note to self, make sure you're recording before you start talking. Just as well, because I said a bunch of things about Matt Jarbo, which upon reflection I probably should not have said. So, Angelina Jolie, oh, please Hollywood, lecture us harder, daddy. You panty-sniffing, coke-snorting perverts are just in the perfect position to lecture us. The same people who applaud, literally stand and applaud people who abuse children, if you can read in between the line on that, feel comfortable lecturing us. They're so far up their own, but they really don't see the hypocrisy. So Angelina Jolie calls Middle Eastern countries ignorant for not liking the gays. And the thing is, it was a kind of convoluted syntax of a issue, because she was talking about those movies not being released in the Middle East because they had two dudes in them, and the Middle East is not down with that. I mean, they'll teach them about gravity. But I think she was trying to insult, flyover country, middle America, am I right? Orange County, Trump! All those people, they think they're just so cutting an edge. Like, those Trump jokes were old in 2016, and they still can't get over it. He just lives rent-free in their heads. I think some of them, it might be sexual for some of them. So I think she was talking about Joe and Jane, a six-pack, or Jamal, six-pack, or Juan, six-pack. The thing is, there's a lot of us who are just normies who are just not into this kind of thing. But technically, she was actually referring to the Middle East, because those movies weren't being shown in the Middle East. 9.8 meters per second squared. So the Eternals wasn't a bomb, but it was a great bomb and Middle East in one sentence. There goes the FBI. But it was a soft performer, like a lot of movies have been lately. They're going to make money. It's just going to take a while, like Shang-Chi. I still don't think it's crossed into the black. Like, it definitely will. It's just the return on investment. They're pushing out that envelope of the switch from being in the red, losing money, to being in the black, being profitable. And, every return on investment also has a time scale along with it. The goal is to spend as smallest amount of money in the shortest amount of time and make the biggest return on investment. It's like, we want that return on investment in 3 months. We don't want to wait 2 years for, like, Blu-ray sales, DVD sales. I don't even know if they do that anymore, if it's all streaming now. You get what I'm saying, though. You want the money as quick as possible, because they want to put it in other future projects. So eventually you're going to see a budget drop. You can't keep making $200 to $300 million films that have such a low or negative return on investment. It's just go the Deadpool Joker route. Those were like $50 million movies, I think. At the very least, they were under $100 million. Cheaper films for the better return on investment. So, are we ignorant if we don't want to see BLT propaganda? No, that's gay. And I don't mean BLT gay or same-sex attraction gay. I mean in the pejorative. It's just silly and lighthearted and frivolous and just cringe. It's just a circle jerk of cringe. Nobody wants to see stuff that is obviously propaganda. And most of us really don't have a problem with BLT stuff if it's organic. But that is beyond the capacity of Hollywood to do. If you want somebody to put... Like, as lame as I think diversity is, if you put a gun to my head and said, hey, write diversity in this film, write gay characters, I totally could do it, and they wouldn't be gay. They would just be who they are. You would just be writing the characters organically, not there to stand up and give you a lecture about how their feelings were hurt when some blonde-haired, blue-eyed man insulted them, and then another blonde-haired, blue-eyed man insulted them, and then a person of color came along and defended the gay person. It's like, that's Hollywood. They're so over the top with it. They've been getting high on their own supply for so long, they don't see how it's like. You remember? Did you see? I don't know if you saw Wonder Woman Part 2. It's called Wonder Woman 1984. The bad guy who was a drunk in a suit and a tie was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy in an inner city. He was the bad guy. That's insane. That would have been insane 50 years ago, and it sure as hell is insane in 2020. So nobody wants to see stuff that is just like beating us over the head with propaganda. But the thing is, it's not a deal breaker for a lot of people. A lot of people are cool with it as long as it's within the context of a good film, and they can't be purse puppies. You absolutely have got to get rid of the purse puppies. Everyone has to have a chance to shine, and that means everyone has to have a chance to be the bad guy. You can't constantly make the bad guy blonde-haired, blue-eyed. That's just the soft bigotry of lowered expectations when you go through movies and comics and stories. It's like, I'm kind of noticing, like, you can draw a line between protagonist and antagonist, and the colors on one side are fair and the colors on the other side are dark, and the correlation between that is like almost 100%. Oh, well, it's just one movie. Yeah, but we don't just see one movie a year. We see a movie a month. I don't know how many movies you watch. The more movies you see, the more obvious it gets that, like, oh, these are why people call them purse puppies. Like, they can do no wrong in modern Hollywood films. Anyway, so when the film turns out to be nothing but purse puppies, the average viewer feels like there is nothing in it for him. Are the kids out of touch, or are we out of touch? It must be the kids. You're not istophobic because you can't make a connection with the film. The film is wrong, not the customer. The customer is just out there. It's a potential, not an actual. If you fail to connect with the customer, that's on your fault if you were trying to connect with that customer. And apparently maybe Hollywood is truly trying to do something weird in that they're actually trying to pare down the customer base to get a smaller customer base, but like a more ideologically purified customer base. I remember that Zach in Diversity in Comics was talking about this concept years ago, where they really believe, some of them, that they would rather do that. They would rather sell to fewer people, but if they were more ideologically pure people. The thing with the left is, I don't know if you're on Twitter now, but they constantly eat each other. There's different Antifa groups right now that are going to war over each other over being who's ideologically pure enough, where it used to be they just attacked the right. Now there are Antifa groups inside Antifa attacking each other for being misogynist and istophobic and all this other kind of stuff. Anyway, people are changing their minds about Disney and definitely about Disney and maybe Hollywood in general. If you put out a string of bad movies, people start to realize that this is the future of Hollywood. Garbage or propaganda, Pravda, North Korean, the mainstream North Korean newspaper. We don't go to a theater for a lecture. We go for escapism from Weimar America. But if there's no escapism, you may as well stay home and divert yourself from this dystopian existential black hole with another pastime. Old movies are always available. In fact, you can find a lot of, Charlie Chan stuff on YouTube itself. And Bit Chute and Odysee especially, also has a ton of old movies. To search Bit Chute, you don't want to search within Bit Chute. You have to go outside of Bit Chute, like just a Google search, a movie title plus the Bit Chute name, and it'll take you to Bit Chute, where if you're inside Bit Chute, the search engine doesn't work as well. There's a ton of stuff that's available online. Like anything black and white, you probably it's going to be a good time. Though now I realize that they have been putting this cancer in films since almost the beginning. Being red-pilled on Hollywood makes you look at movies in a whole different light. And to be perfectly honest, it ruins a lot of movies. The further back you go, you're going to find better films. But it's almost to the point where like you're better off looking at South Korean or Japanese or even Bollywood films. Oh, hey, what's this? A plucky little POC child who needs to show the Englishman the true meaning of the friends we made along the way. Movies will have the plucky pox show the Germans how to use something, and then you look up the history of it, and whatever it was turns out to be invented by a German. Modern movies are written for slow children who don't ask questions about the Wakanda-ing of the narrative. I was listening to Matt Jarbo and his Soyboy crew on a live stream last night whine about the guys who didn't like the Eternals and other woke cancer. Even that word triggers them. But they're triggered by basically everything, because if they didn't have ad hominems and strawmans, they wouldn't have an argument, because they will have to deflect from your argument and ad hominem you, because they can't attack your argument itself. So we talk about movies we don't like, and they talk about us talking about movies we don't like. So why don't you just tell me what you liked about the Eternals? Oh, it was diversity. That's not a reason to like a movie, is it? I mean, if it is for you, okay, but it's not for us. We're just on different pages in a different book. It's like, that's not a reason for me to like a movie. But they purportedly talk about something like we're not comfortable with our masculinity. That's a concept that only Soyboys say or think about. There's a spectrum of BLT, or same-sex attraction. Most people, like 90+%, I assume, are pretty firmly on one side. But when we say this, these Soyboys who are, I won't say they're in the middle, I'll say they're further to the left. They're approaching the middle of that spectrum of, hetero to homosexuality. They think that we are denying our sexuality when we say, no, we're pretty much on one side. It's like, it just doesn't, we just don't have that part of our brain that, it's like people who are attracted to feet for whatever reason. It's like they're just, that part of their brain is wired differently, and the rest of us, like, it just doesn't get it. We just don't see colors. But when we say this, these soy boys, they say we're in denial. We're trying to sound macho. That again is a soy boy term. The same sex is almost like saying you're attracted to a bookshelf. It's just a nonsensical statement, like smelling a sound. We're not bookshelf-ophobic. We just don't understand the concept of furniture passion. We're not in denial. It seems like an alien and silly concept. And some of us, to be fair, some of us are grossed out about it. But that is a fair and reasonable response. It's a personal, subjective part of bodily autonomy. You are entitled to your feelings, and your feelings are valid. And don't let these horrible, horrible people tell you that you don't have a right to be grossed out or disgusted by something. Like, you don't have to explain, oh, it's part of my religion, my value system. No, it's just biological. I see these two dudes kiss. I'm like, ugh, not into that, dude. And they look at you like you just advocated genocide or something. Like, how dare you say that? Oh, I'm feeling it. Aren't all feelings valid? Not yours, you Hugo Boss wearing Nazi. So when I hear soy boys rage about the Phantom Menace or Comicsgate, they're triggered when we don't like a movie. It means the brainwashing isn't working on us, and that drives them absolutely crazy. So I heard Matt saying something about Marvel, and he's got good takes on movies. Like the technical side of movies, it's just kind of, about half the time it's interesting to hear him. Then the other half the time it just turns into this. We're not supposed to attack other people on YouTube. That's like a no-no for the platform. So use your imagination. You talked about Marvel needing another purse puppy in some movie. I just don't understand why he feels that way, or even if he really means that, or if he's past the point of knowing what he believes. People already are not on board with replacing characters. Why would you continue to do something that people have no interest in? The difference is philosophical. Give people what they want, or give people the propaganda du jour. I'm tired of purse puppies in films. God, you're ugly. I mean, turns out actually there's a lot of ugly people in that movie, which is probably part of the problem. I'm tired of being lectured to by Epstein, Weinstein, Hollywood types. Apparently there are a lot of people like me, because these woke films are underperforming. If you have a movie in a series like The Avengers or Captain Marvel that was in between the two biggest movies in history, then you can sneak in woke cancer. The Eternals is a standalone with a bunch of people who are really, really been hit with the ugly stick. If you want a movie to have a series chance, you're going to need younger actors. And in the case of women, you're going to need much younger actors. It's just a biological fact of aging and attractiveness, and they need to be very physically well sorted, like not like that. That appeals to nobody. I think he's the gay character. I don't know. I kind of fell asleep halfway through that movie. In fact, all of the Eternals kind of look like the shallow end of the gene pool. Like they already picked out the hot people for other movies, so you end up with the rejects. What was that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito? Twins. They took all the good genetic material for Arnold, and Danny DeVito was the leftover. That's a movie that probably couldn't be made today. In fact, all these movies, anything before yesterday couldn't be made today. That's how freaking woke it is. You're just going to see, I don't know what you're going to see in the future. So Chris Pratt, Ryan Reynolds, and Chris Evans, they fit a certain mold of what people come to expect in films. Not this guy with the 5 head. I don't know what happened to his hairline, but if it's that far back, buddy, it's time to shave it. So when I was listening to Matt and his Soylent crew, I realized that they were somewhere in the middle of the BLT sexuality spectrum. And I don't mean that as an insult, and I know it might come off as such, but I really don't. I don't have a problem with the BLTs at all. But I mean that they have some more comfort with their own same-sex attraction, and that they think that most people share that feeling and are just in denial about it. Most people don't. We don't care if you're BLT, but it just doesn't click for us. Obviously, if you're in Thailand, the rules don't apply while you're there. But other than that, most of us don't want to see two ugly dudes together. But maybe we'd be okay with it if it was funny and not preachy. But you can't have a catamite in the mix, because we view that as basically a Luciferian offering to Moloch. Anyway, wow, this went on longer than I thought. Like, comment, subscribe. Support the channel if you can on Coffee, PayPal, Patreon, or through crypto, Cash App, Subscribe Star, all the rest. Go to Odysee, sign up on Odysee, because they have their own crypto library token there. It's a lot easier to donate to channels on Odysee. Like, you can give somebody literally 2 or 3 pennies. It's like, well, those pennies add up. Anyway, I'll see you guys on all platforms.